You've tamed the voices in your head. You've put your courage to the test. Laid all your doubts to rest.
Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of Intuitive Queens, and today I have the pleasure to have with me Susanne Braam, who is an intuitive artist. Hello Susanne, nice to see
you. Yes, thank you Mara, I'm so excited to join you here today.
Me too. So we've spoken a few weeks ago, and I got to know you through your Facebook page. You do crystal grids and you work with crystal, but I want you to explain to us what you do and briefly for now, and then we'll go into it.
Yes. So briefly, the best way that I describe what it is that I do is I'm an intuitive artist. I create healing designs that are meant to awaken your soul, to spark on some aspect of your life or on your journey in this life. And I create these designs with the power of colors, sacred geometry, and if desired, you can also combine them with crystals, and then you have a crystal grid, which will act as your personal support system, your cheerleading squad. Like, okay, this is the one intention or one goal that you have set to support you on that journey, on that road.
Yeah, and she does amazing things. Like, you guys need to check her out. I love colors. I do color therapy, and I absolutely love your designs. But we'll talk about this a little bit later. I'd like to know your story a little bit, because I know you used to work in the corporate environment and you had some tough moments personally and professionally, and then you found your purpose, not really thinking that could be your purpose. So no. I'd like to know a little bit your story from you and see how you managed to go through and find what is really making you happy now.
Yes, that's perfectly fine. Do you have a point where I need to start, or?
So you were working in a corporate environment.
Yeah. So before I started my own business, my background is HR, human resources. So for 15 years, I have been working in several types of positions when it comes to the human resources field. So organizational development, coaching, group coaching, team coaching, personal coaching, management development. Such kind of.
And how was your situation there? Was it something that you were happy to do, or how did you feel when you were at work?
I think for me, during those 15 years, it was a gradual development into being happy with the job that I got to do, and also the field that I was working with, because I always imagined myself working with people, but not so much as in a psychology or setting or something like that. And then working in HR, you still get to work with people, but it's more in a corporate setting. Business setting. So yeah, when I finished my university and I got my first job, I was really happy. Like, okay, this is really something for me. And then over time, I invested more in personal development, in trainings, and also in spiritual development, also to trainings and all kinds of experiences. And then I slowly started to realize, like, it feels like I'm a bit torn apart. Like, one leg is in the corporate world and one leg is in this spiritual, intuitive world. And as time progressed and my life progressed, I think that gap, I tried to close the gap. And I did several actions also to actively make that possible, because I don't think like the corporate world, I think there is an opening also for the corporate world to have more intuitive and spiritual insights and ideas, because in the end, there's a lot of spiritual people out there, and they also have a daily job, right? So yeah. But for me personally, I felt like the gap was growing and growing, and for me, it was more difficult to overcome that. And so towards the end of my corporate career, I actually felt a bit depleted on a level of being able to manifest or express myself like truly, or to be creative. And I think also in a cycle of 15 years in HR, you've seen all the kinds of organizational developments. You've seen, well, you kind of seen it all.
Yeah, I can imagine 50 years in the same field, there is a lot to see.
Yeah, of course. Well, when it comes to human nature and also group development, of course, that is a truly interesting field to work in. So I've always loved, especially that part of my job. Also, like having the one-on-one conversations with people when they were like heading, which I could see like to a burnout, or when there was a situation at work that something with their manager was not working out. Such kind of situations. Yeah.
You mentioned that you started to do some obviously personal development courses, but also some spiritual courses. What kind of things were you doing, and what brought you to do any of those spiritual courses? Was it your personal interest, or things that happened to you in life that made you want to take one of those routes?
Well, in hindsight, it's always easier to explain, but I think at the time I just always had this really passion and interest for how people behave. Like, how come some person reacts to this situation like that and the other like that, and someone is carrying the effects of such kind of situations for a long time, and others are like, okay, it is done, it's in the past, let's just move forward. And especially in the field of HR, that is quite beneficial if you know more about the psychology of such kind of behavior. And then also the way you communicate with people. So in what way do I get my message across in the best way? So I started my journey doing our neurolinguistic programming, and that is in 2006. And that training, really opened my eyes, because I thought I will learn how to communicate better with others. And then in the end, what I actually learned is how much I communicate with myself, my inner dialogue, and what is going on there. So that was a true eye-opener. Like, oh God, okay, there is so much limiting beliefs in my mind. There's so much programs that are running, which are maybe not as effective as I would like them to be. And I also came across with the work of family constellations. And I don't know if your viewers or you are familiar with that, but there I was also introduced to the term like the collective field. When you do a constellation, actually the one who is representing someone in a constellation is tapping to the collective field and getting information. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. How does this work? And then I end up being in a constellation myself too, and I felt like this information is coming through me. And
I did the same. It happened to me, and I felt something that I had never felt in my life, and I was like, wow, this is crazy, but it's so true. You see things on a different perspective, and really that opens your eyes. You're like, okay, now I understand a couple of things.
Yeah, exactly. I experienced in the constellation, I got really short of breath. So I was standing there like, and I like, this is not me. I'm perfectly fine in this moment. What is going on? And then until the person who was doing the constellation said, yeah, that is my aunt, and she's suffering from severe asthma or something. And I'm like, wow, amazing. So we have this capability to pick up something from the field. So
to connect to the energy that is around us, and we forget about it.
And I actually maybe, but again, that's in hindsight, I maybe also actually just forgot that I have that capability too, and that this gateway or this way of receiving information is open to everyone once we accept and acknowledge that we have this possibility. So I did more trainings in the neurolinguistic programming, also the coaching training. And then I also did a trauma training, because I also, on a personal level, but I also saw that around me, like many persons are also affected affected by trauma.
Yeah.
Like childhood trauma. So I experienced severe abuse on a physical level, but then of course that also affects your mental stability and convictions and beliefs. And then along with that, I also did actually all kinds of things, like a short course in tarot card reading, or a short course in working with crystals, chakra healing, or all these
you
kinds
felt
of
the
things.
need to get more information about what was around you. Yeah, because I feel that is how you start. You start with something, and then it takes very quick time to get to want to know a bit more and more, and you start to get to know a lot of people that do different practices. At least this was how I started. I started with one of my best friends that introduced me to some practices, and then it just opened a complete different world. I'm like, wow, what did you know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's more to it. Yes. Yeah. So that I think for me it was exactly the same. Yes.
So
and
no, go ahead.
No. So and then in the end, what I ended up because that was how it started in the neurolinguistic program training. They also did a part where where it was not so much about communication, because that's mainly like here. About your body. How do you move your body? How do you contact with people? When is someone too close? When is someone too far away? How do you reach out? All such kind of things. Do you ground yourself? And then also on that level, that also really opened some
chakras.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on, I attended again some workshop, and he I think he called it which is now really a popular ways of saying, like, we're living in the third dimension, fourth dimension, five dimension. So he was speaking about the five dimension, and also the way we connect and the field we create and the unconditional love. And I participated in that workshop, and I just was moved to tears. Really, my heart felt so open and so touched by this work that I thought, this is what I wanted to do. And then in the end, I ended up doing 4 year training in conscious movement. Other people call it biodanza, but dancing. And I also have been facilitating women's dance circles for many years.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I guess where were you personally and professionally when you were doing all those things? Because I know you had some tough moments also personally. What made you continue to learn more, and where did you find your inspiration, energy, that thing that made you want to know more, understand more?
Yeah, so the training for that, the dance teaching, I knew when I stepped into that I really committed to a journey of several years. So, and yeah, for me, it felt really good to do that. And also when I commit to that, then it's just something that I want to do. And back in that time, I was single, no kids, all right? So now I'm a single parent of a toddler. So I now understand what luxury I had time-wise. I also had the time to invest, all right? And because of that, also the energy. And then from me also facilitating those dance circles, I did that on my free Wednesday. So I worked 4 days at 2 hours. And then on the Wednesday, I facilitated a weekly circle. And then on Saturdays, once a month, I facilitated a women's circle monthly. And that one was always aligned to the theme of the full moon, because that's also a line of interest that I started to follow. Like, okay, how does it work with the lunar cycle? The cycles of nature, and how can we attune and align ourselves more to that? So that is all still when I was just working 4 days of 9 hours and having no relation and no kids. And then in the end, important to say is I I divorced before my 30s, and I think also that has to do with this whole spiritual journey or personal development journey, because being divorced at such a young age forced me to reflect on what it is that I wanted to have in life, because I thought that I want to have a family and this stable life and happy ever after.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it went differently. It was not because I didn't want that, but it just went differently, and it was my decision to step out of that marriage. But it really sparked my interest to develop myself on a wider perspective, and but my wish to have a child or a family was still there. And so in my late 30s, I met a man, and we had a long distance relationship because I met the man in India.
Oh wow, that's a long distance, very long distance relationship.
And I'm in Netherlands, so it's around 9,000 kilometers. So yeah. And so for 2 years we had a long distance relationship, and then in the end he managed to visit the Netherlands, and he was here for 6 weeks, and we had a really good time, and well, showing him around and everything. And then we made plans to get him permanently to Netherlands, which in the Netherlands, and I'm sure in UK, or well, still you're in Europe, but in Europe,
I was still in Europe for a few months.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're
but it's complicated. I know it's complicated.
Very complicated. So after those 6 weeks, he just had to go home, and then I just felt a bit devastated. Like, okay, now after all these years, he was here, we get to live together, and so I felt really tired, and I felt off and everything, and everyone was telling me, yeah, it's because he's back into India again, and you now feel alone, and you need to get yourself together again. Okay. But then somehow I was just really not feeling well, so I thought, well, maybe I need to check in with the doctors to see what they have to say. And I just got this intuition. Yeah, I know. What if I go to the doctors, then they're probably gonna ask me, did you do a pregnancy test? Which I thought. So I thought, well, let's buy such a thing, and then I at least can say, okay, it's not that, all right? So I right before I went to sleep, I did a test. I don't know how many times I read the instructions, which is actually very easy. Like if there's 2 lines or 1 line, but there were 2 lines. So and it's like, oh my god, I'm pregnant. So this was like in the middle of the night, and then you have a time difference with India, 4 or 5 hours. So I called him up. He was really sleepy, and I'm like, woo, I'm pregnant. And we were both really happy. It was unexpected. Unexpected in a way, as in we knew it was a possibility, but I've never expected, being late 30s and him just being 6 weeks here, that it would happen. So from that moment on, my life took a really different turn. And but I think also being pregnant, I don't know how other women experience that, but that also does something to your intuition. I don't know, you get a heightened intuition, or you get a new dimension, I don't know. So I was, of course, very happy that I was expecting, but at the same time, I actually felt something was off, and because of that, I felt very concerned. But my family doctor immediately sent me for a ultrasound. And when I was there, she confirmed that I was pregnant. I could see the beating heart, and I was already 8.5 weeks along. So everything was fine. Then you can, because I was considered like a higher age, so I was entitled to do extra tests. And then one of the tests came back, and they said, your baby has a higher risk of some kind of chromosome defect, and we want to do further tests. So we did further tests, and then the test came back and said, no, everything's fine. All right, everything's fine, so fine. And then at the 20 weeks ultrasound, I went in with a friend of mine because my partner was still in India.
Yeah.
And I felt really not good about it, but yeah, everything was fine. So what is it that I had to do? And I also did extra hypnotherapy to connect to my baby and everything, because I thought my intuition is just bugging me, and I'm just maybe getting paranoid or something. But I went into the 20 weeks ultrasound, and well, long story short, it was not good. And the doctor who was doing the ultrasound said to me, and I will really never forget this, she said, your baby is gonna die within a couple of days or weeks.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And that is really the moment you for me, like the earth disappeared underneath me, like what to do now? And you just get into this treadmill of actions and more tests that needs to be done. And then also I had a partner in India, which I wanted to have in the Netherlands. So I had to start an emergency visa procedure and everything. And I was put under higher surveillance to keep track of how the baby was doing. And then I actually knew, okay, my intuition was right. My intuition was right. And I used that same intuition to talk to my daughter. It was a girl, which I knew, but not, I had not confirmed that by test, but I just knew. And I told her, all right, this is the test results. And you still have a strong beating heart, but we saw on the ultrasound your body is not capable or matching for a life here on Earth. So I need to go into a procedure to deliver you into this world, which you most likely won't survive. So just know that I love you very, very much, that you're perfect to me. But I allow you, and I'm also asking you to go in your own time while you're still inside of me. So on the next appointment, it was just a couple of days later, they confirmed she passed away, which I also felt. I just felt all of a sudden before I went to that appointment, like, hey, there is a connection cut or something. I don't know.
Wow.
I can communicate with her, and then I felt like this sudden silence or something. And of course she's still there, but then on another realm or something, other level. And well,
wow,
because
that must have really, really changed you deeply inside.
Yeah, well, in that moment, even my friend, because she accompanied me to that doctor's appointment, and she said, you were so calm. You were so calm when they confirmed she passed away. You did not cry or anything. I said, no, because this is what I wished for. This is what I asked for. I talked about it with her. And because that means that I believe that every soul has a journey, a blueprint, and her blueprint was just to be with me for this short time. Yeah. And maybe in her next experience, it will be a different one or a longer one. And so I said, no, this is fine. And this will also mean that if I had to go in a full delivery procedure or experience, it will also mean that when I'm in the labor, I don't have to worry that I'm hurting her or that she will die in the process, because she is already, it's just only now her body that I have to birth. So I was, well, okay, it's not.
Yeah, in a way, from the difficulty, she made it easier.
Yeah, for me, it was easier. And then it took me 4 days to give birth to her. It was a hell of a journey. And I did a beautiful farewell ceremony just with close friends and family. And wow. But then after that, I've never experienced in my life a larger feeling of emptiness and devastation than after that.
Of course, yeah.
I just felt lost. And the thing is, because of this sudden message that my pregnancy was everything wrong, I also dropped out of office immediately.
Yeah,
well, you can imagine you're not able to work anymore. And then, of course, it also took me time to go back to office again. But something inside of me had changed. Like, okay, if I get to experience such kind of loss and I need to go back again into office, then what is it that I'm doing in that office that makes my life worthwhile? And, well, of course, the answer is you need to earn your money to pay your mortgage and everything. But it didn't felt enough anymore.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I was also in the procedure of getting my partner to the Netherlands, and I needed that job to prove that I had a income and everything, and then I was able to support both of us. So I just continued, but inside of me there, something really had changed. And then in the end, he managed to come to the Netherlands. It was the beginning of 2015, February. And then in March 2015, I was pregnant again. It was like, wow, it goes this much
Quicker.
easy, quickly, whatever. But yeah, this pregnancy was also not really a fun ride because I experienced severe pregnancy illness or nauseousness. And here you need to imagine you are vomiting 30 to 50 times a day.
Wow.
And I was not able to drink anymore. I was not able to hold any food anymore. So in the end, I was admitted to the hospital 3 times, and on the 4th time they said, okay, you're not going out of this hospital until you have nose tube feeding, because you need to keep some food and fluid down, because otherwise it will cost you your life. So I got discharged with the hospital with that thing in my nose. It hurt like hell, and I just felt only diminished, like this incubator of a baby, and there's like this tube inside of me which kept me alive, and only thing I was doing was lying in my bed suffering. It was hell. But yeah, I was pregnant, and that's what I wanted, right? I wanted to have a baby. My condition improved around 20 weeks pregnancy. Maybe it also had to do because then I, of course, had the 20 weeks ultrasound again, which I had terrible memory of. But then this time everything was okay. The baby was okay. And I could see that on the screen, like, oh, this looks so much different than last time. So it gave me some relief, and I somehow, on a physical level, were starting to do better. But yeah, I was never able to go back to work again. So in the end, my girl was born on the 1st December of 2015. And in the Netherlands, you then have 12 weeks of maternity leave. So I had that, but that meant that actually I dropped out of office for almost a full year because of pregnancy and maternity leave. And then when I came back, that was really interesting. We had a new managing director. And the managing director told me, okay, welcome, you're back. We don't know each other yet, but I'm so happy you're back on board because we missed someone on the position of HR, and I heard wonderful stories about you. So yeah, let's plan to make this successful for both sides. So I thought, like, oh, all right, that's good. And then she said to me at the end of the conversation, oh yeah, by the way, your whole reintegration schedule and what tasks you can do, you can discuss this with this and this colleague. And I was like, that is weird, because in the past, I would discuss these matters with the managing director, a different person, but still. So I was like, what is going on here? So in the end, I ended up talking to that colleague. And then my intuition, like, something really changed in here. So I confronted him. I said, so while I was away, did you now become my manager? And then he did not know where to look. And then he said, yeah, I became your manager.
So they didn't tell you I mean, like, you've been away for a year, so it's normal that things can change. I guess it happens.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, it would
but
be
they
nice.
Didn't tell you anything.
No. And it's also, at least in the Netherlands, it's not really normal that they take your position in that way. I was the team coordinator of the HR team. So, and all of a sudden he was on that position, and I was now a team member. Like, all right.
Wow.
And and then I knew, based on my work experience of 50 years, but also intuition wise, like this energy, the tables have changed, turned. I have a baby at home. I have a partner at home. They both depend on my income. There's just, well, choose your battles. And my battle in that moment was just to come back, to build up, again, the energy to work full time in the field. And that's just what I felt to do. But I knew that that was the starting point of the end of this job.
Yeah.
And then, well, to make things more challenging, my partner ended up being less helpful in the whole family situation than I hoped for. Well, we really ended up being in a situation where it was really toxic, and in the end also unsafe. And because it went up to the level, it was this much unsafe, that I decided to pick up my girl when she was 13 months old, and I left my own home to stay with my parents. And from there, I told him, our relationship is over. You need to seek your own place, because I want to be back in my home. It took me 6 weeks of negotiating.
Wow.
Then I went back to my own home, and then I became a single parent. So, single parent, full-time working, and how I'm gonna find daycare. It's just all of this pushes you in survival mode. So intuition barely, what I feel, is barely coming through, because you're just like,
you have too much going on. Yeah.
And then because of the way the relationship was ended, I also really had to think, okay, what is the best steps I need to take to have maximum safety for my girl? So I also needed to take some legal steps. Well, I don't know in your country, but I think in every country those things takes time. So it took months. I had to go to court, and then in the end, in the court, they did they did the decision, the judge, and she told me, okay, we're gonna rule in this and this way, and it was as what I wished for. Yeah. So I got the full custody of my girl.
That's a terrific story, Susanne. Like really, really, I feel your pain, because it's really powerful, but also really, really difficult. And I know this is the step that made you switch.
Yes.
So now, from that moment and all those really painful moments to where you are now, how that came across, how did you find out crystals and crystal grids and designs were your thing? Was it easy? How do you feel now? What's going on now? Let's talk about
yes,
positive.
No, it's truly fine. No, indeed, all these things, and I don't think, maybe it's not necessary for everyone, but I think if you go through such life-changing events, you are just really forced to reflect on what makes life valuable. Well, of course, my girl, but apart from that, and also apart from that, for me, what kind of example do I want to give my girl? Do I want to tell her, oh, it's so hard to be a single parent, and I'm suffering, and I need to go to that stupid job at the office? And I felt like that is not what I want her to see life, and it's different.
Yeah.
But that meant that I had to collect myself and gather all my courage to show myself, but also for her, like, okay, how can it be done differently? Well, so I did again an intensive, well, for me, injection into self-recovery and everything. I did art therapy, so I started to work with colors.
Amazing.
And just intuitive painting, or with colors, pastel crayons. And I really love that. I really just love that. Like, my intuition was telling me, you need to do that, because art therapy, well, I don't know, but it's not really the mainstream thing. And but I just felt like, no, I need to do that. And it really clicked for me. And then at the end of, because we were then, by the end of 2018, I was able, because of the generosity of a cousin of mine, to go to Bali. Because she lives there, and I got to stay with her for 6 weeks with my girl. And I was able also at an ashram in Bali to teach there or facilitate the conscious movement dance.
Mm-hmm.
But they did meditations with the flower of life. And the flower of life is one of the sacred geometry symbols, the overlapping circles. It's a very popular one. And that symbol, I don't know why, but that just sticked with me. Like, I got this mental representation in my mind, and it just stick with me. And so I traveled back to the Netherlands. And then by the end of 2018, I had a mentor of mine telling me, well, drawing cards, like from an oracle card deck, like, okay, what is it that you need to focus on in 2019? And she pulled me a card, and she said to me, you need to focus on sacred geometry.
Wow. What a message.
Right. All right, why, what is sacred geometry? How do I need to focus on that? And by the way, I was always bad in math, so why me?
Of course, because that's what you think first, geometry, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then she said, no, it's like the flower of life. And I said, oh my God. But that image stuck with me when I was already in Bali. And then I started to put the pieces together. And it was also then in around Christmas time, I started to make fold these stars with my girl for on the window. But these also have these geometric shapes. And then I thought, well, this folding, it's a bit too tedious work and, well, a bit annoying. Let's see if I can draw them. And so I got out my, where is it? My compass. I think it was still the compass. I don't have it here now. Which I used when I was maybe, I don't know.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like this
because
plastic one.
Otherwise you will not use a compass at all.
Exactly. Like, okay, where do I have a compass? And I drew a circle, and I drew some more, and I made some lines, and I thought like, oh, this actually looks good. And and then to work with crystals, I've never realized, but crystals is something that was always part of my journey. The crystals that I have now, and I'm 42, I have crystals in my collection, which I already have when I was 6 years old.
Whoa.
So
that's a long time.
Yeah, but it just never occurred to me that would be something to do business-wise or something. But in Bali, I also had a bag which has a mandala design on it. And then I think for the new year, I made a crystal grid, which meant on that mandala, I put the crystals in a certain circular shape and one central, and I put my intention there and everything. But once I started to draw the sacred geometry designs, then I got a clue, like I can combine those crystals on those designs. And I thought like, yeah, well, it's just fun for me and it makes a good practice. So I decided to make a picture of it and put on Facebook. And then everyone said, oh, that is so beautiful. How did you do that? Do you sell them? And I'm like, what? Do I sell them? I'm like, oh, all right. Yeah, of course I sell them. So yeah, that's basically how it started out. So I started out creating these designs, combining them with the crystals, initially doing them like custom designs, like you would tell me your intention, and I would align myself energetically with what crystals would be the best, and also what kind of sacred geometry symbol or pattern, because every symbol and pattern holds different metaphysical properties. And then, well, for me, after being 15 years in a corporate, to step into being an entrepreneur is challenging.
Yeah.
It opens this new level of reflections and limiting beliefs and, well,
fears, anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
you have the good side of wanting freedom and all flexibility and all that, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, but you're like you feel like you don't know where to go, but then eventually you start moving forward.
Yeah. So I felt like a bit going out of balance. And then I felt like, okay, what to do? What do I love to do most? Because that will help me to get back in balance. And that was to create. So I just made this like decision, inner decision. Every day I want to create. I want to have time to create something. I started doing that, I think, back in June. And then in July, that really took a flow. And then I started to share my designs on a really regular daily level. That's what I still do. So on my personal Facebook account, Susanne Braam, or on my Instagram. And so I still combine them with the crystals because that's still my passion and I still love to do that. But for me to be able to create these designs, this art, that is my happy place. And I also feel, because it comes from that place where I create them with love and dedication, I also feel that it resonates with other people on that on that deeper level. Yeah,
amazing. That is amazing. You do amazing things. Let's just go a little bit into this. So you were explaining the procedure. So let's say I tell you my intention. So you create the design based on my intention. Would you then tell the person to buy certain crystals, or you send out the crystal grid and the crystals together? How does that work? What people need to expect, what they need to do when they receive your grid, and show it to us.
Well, I have different ways that you can work with me. What I do is I have a collective program, which I call the New Moon Collective. So every month, every new moon is the best time to set your new intentions and also to activate a crystal grid. So in that collective program, you get a unique design of me, you can print it out yourself, and you get a list of crystals and you can buy them yourself. So then you can create a crystal grid every new moon yourself. If you want to have a personal grid, then I would do an intake session with you and say, okay, Mara, what is it that you desire a crystal grid for? What kind of support do you desire? And then typically most intentions are abundance, prosperity, love. Yeah. But then what I would do, I would take you to some steps to reach the point that there is this, what I call higher intention, or your soul aligned intention, because these kind of crystal grids are not like, okay, let's put in some typical abundance crystals and then it's done. No, because most likely when you have an intention, it also means that there are some things that are holding you back manifesting that intention. And what I do is try to see what is your highest intention, and then I align my energy and the design and also the crystals to that. So I did one for a lady in San Diego, and she was just blown away, like, oh my God.
How does this work? Like, say you tell me all those steps, and how long does a person need to keep the grid? And is there a process that you need to do? Do you need to do, I don't know, affirmations along meditation? How does that work?
So if you buy a personal grid from me, you can keep that up for as long as you feel that intention has manifested itself. Typically, those personal kinds of grids would be activated or up for a longer period of time, because it's not like I want to have 5 clients and then when it's done. No, it's on a higher level. But in the New Moon Collective, all those grids that we activate, you can keep them up for 1 lunar cycle. So from one new moon to the next one. So that's typically 4 weeks.
Okay.
And the way you connect with them, because we would do an activation together. So we just arrange the crystals and then activate and program the grid so it will support you. That's something that we would do together. Or in the New Moon Collective, I would also do a live session. And then I always advise people to connect with your grid daily. So put it in a place where you can see it. So just either visual, but if you just like have for 1 minute, you just stand in front of your grid, put your hands above the energy, and well, I call a connection code. So there are some steps, and then you could connect with that energy, and then absorb that energy in a place in your body where you feel at that point in time you benefit from it the most. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. Do you want to show us one of your designs? Because they're way too beautiful not to show them.
Yeah, so I knew this question was coming, so I prepared something. Well, it's now a bit difficult, of course, to show the crystal grids itself because they don't stick to the designs when I hold them up. So I work with watercolor backgrounds, abstract backgrounds, and alcohol ink backgrounds. I started out with a pastel crayon, but I do that less now. So this is just one. So this is a triangle one, and this is with the white marker. I don't do that too much. I usually work with gold and silver, and then white as a circle. In my designs, you will always see well, yeah, I think so. Always see a circle, because the circle is the representation of oneness, of wholeness. It's the starting point of where everything originates from. So then this is a design. So this is alcohol ink background. In the silver one is a Merkaba, and then there's these tetraeders or triangle shapes around it. And this is typically a design that just comes to me intuitively, because it's not something that I figure out or something. Typically I wake up and then there's either a word or a visual that comes to me, and then I just really quickly sketch that or write it down, like, okay, later in the day I need to work on this.
That's amazing. That's even more powerful. Where can we find your designs, where we can buy them, where we can know more about you? I know you have a Facebook group because I found you there and you have those amazing things. Tell us where we can find you and where we can buy your design, where we can have a session with you. And I'll put all the notes then in the box and in the notes, so then it's easier for people to just click on it.
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is just on Facebook. So my name is Susanne Braam, but if you will write it down, and that will be the easiest way to find me. And I'm also on Instagram, but the easiest way to connect me is just on Facebook and just send me a personal message. Many people ask me, why don't you have a website? It is something that I'm considering, but I truly love the energy of the social media, because of the way that it's that I'm able to interact in a better way, and especially when you're doing my type of work. Well, at least for me, that information is important. For instance, in my group, I always share on the Monday this domino oracle, like the messages. If I would do that on a website, for me, at the current moment, it feels something that is too distant to me and on an energetic level. So yeah, I just really love.
Everybody has their own way to express themselves. So if this is your way, then we'll find you on Facebook and on Instagram.
Yes.
Well, Susanne, thank you so much for this interview. It's been a great pleasure to hear your story and how you overcame everything, and how you found your purpose and everything. Last thing before we go, if there is one or two advice you want to give our audience, if they find themselves in difficult situations, or they don't know what to do, they might want to follow something, but after listening your story, two things that you would like to say.
Yeah, so I think, well, at least what comes to me when you're asking this kind of question, and when I reflect on my own journey and also my current situation, if you're facing a situation where you really feel like under this tension of what am I doing in my life? Am I heading the right direction? Or I know actually I want to leave my corporate job and want to do something for myself. I feel I get in this like too much in my head and too much stuff going on, and it's this fight or flight mode or survival mode. And while it's very logical you end up in such kind of mode, it is not a mode where you will be able to receive most intuitive guidance. So if you find yourself that you're heading there, like I'm too much up in my head, and I'm just like stuck in all these thought patterns, then the best way what you can do is just really ground yourself, breathe, find the guided meditations. There are so many on Facebook. Find moments of stillness. And then for me, it would be like, I don't have time. But I also found out it's not only a matter of finding time, but it also is somehow a bit of an addiction to be rushing yourself forward and be in this kind of panic mode, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah.
But because once you allow yourself to have more stillness, it means that everything that's on a deeper level inside of you can come up. And what comes up might not always be able to deal with, but it will be things that will help you to move forward. So yeah.
That's
that would
amazing.
be, that would be my advice. Just find stillness.
Yeah, that's amazing. Perfect.
And
Thank
of course,
you so much.
And have a great
Exactly. So that's what we're here for. Thank you so much, Susanne, and thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you for the next episode next week. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Your mind is clearer than before. Your heart is full and wanting more. Your future's at the door.